YouTube, what up? It's been a few days since I made a video. Thank you for the few people who comment and just reach out in any type of way. I appreciate it. So today I want to go over like how to use your equity, stock equity, whether it be it's a margin loan / SBLOC, basically the same thing. So I want to kind of get creative, or I want to kind of give people creative ideas. Now, there are people on YouTube that are charging people for this. I'm not charging people for it. I think it's so simple that it's simple, but there are things that you have to unlearn first for these type of creative financial strategies to even be like possible for you to do with your hard-earned money. So here's how I use my portfolio. I'm going to speak in a lot of hypotheticals, but this is exactly how I use my portfolio. So VTI, VXUS, VBIL, those are all Vanguard ETFs. VBIL is essentially the Vanguard version where a lot of people know about SGov, but VBIL is the same style TBO ETF from Vanguard. It's brand new. A lot of people don't know about it, but I prefer that one over SGov. So let's just say my standard allocation is the classic 60-40 equities bonds or 70-30 equity bonds, right? So that's if I want my portfolio to be in a growth position, right? I'm in a growth position. I'm prioritizing growth over preservation, capital preservation. Now, let's just say I'm gonna give like a few examples so you can kind of understand where I'm going with this. So let's just say it's January 1st, right? And I'm saving up for a car. So a lot of people, what they do is they save the cash, right? And let's just say, for the example to make sense, that person already has a $50,000 60-40 70-30 percentage allocation equities bonds. Let's just say that, right? So they want to get a new car before the end of the year, right? So it's January 1st, and that the person's goal is to get a new car before the end of the year, right? So a lot of people would think, okay, well, I have to sell what I already have to rebalance it. I wouldn't do that, right? What I would do is all the income, what I would do is I would use all of my income, right, to just increase my VBIL or TBIL position. So let's just say in October, I want to get a new car, right? It's January 1st, and I know, right, that I want to get a new car. Instead of how I would go about this, or basically how I do go about, I want to say 80% of the larger purchases in my life, whether it be a car, whether it be a down payment for something, whether it be, the complete payment for something. What I do is, right, I have videos on what I make from my CDO job. A lot of, everyone makes different money, but what I'm able to do is, from January 1st to October, or just given that period, like that time frame, what I would do is every time I get paid, I would just flush my whole check into VBIL, and I would flip that allocation, or get it to be flipped as close as possible. So instead of 60-40 equities, 70-30 equities, I would be 60-30 bonds equities, or 70-30 bonds equities. And the reason that I would do that is to make sure that the possibility, or the percentage possibility of me getting a margin call significantly decreases due to the virtually You know, there is no price fluctuation with VBIL. I get dividends that also helps me buy back my you know, equity, and you know, that money keeps me at a baseline. So if you got 50,000 in VBIL, it's going to stay at 50,000. The capital is going to stay there. The bond, the dividends from the bonds, the interest is going to be there every month. So yeah, that's an idea. If you do plan on keeping a margin loan out for an extended period of time, or if you have a slightly, like, you have a high income, higher portfolio, and you again plan to keep the margin loan open for this, because a lot of people use their margin differently. Some people buy ETFs, SCHD, JEPI, JEPQ. Like, I see so many different strategies when it comes to using your margin. I don't buy stocks with margin. I don't do that. I use my equity as a savings, as arbitrage for investments to make a percentage on a new investment. I personally don't want to I have the ability to buy like tons of more stock, but I feel like at that point you kind of over leveraging yourself in one asset class. I personally don't do that. And what that does is and again, if you are using your portfolio as a bank, or not a bank, as the emergency savings, like I do, instead of like a high yield savings account or emergency funds, I don't do that. That's what VBIL is for. VBIL is my emergency savings, emergency fund, and my, like, independent on the allocation. See, the thing about it is you can change your allocation if you, now the 70, 30, 60, 40, the 30% of your portfolio is what, you know, 15 to 30 is really your emergency savings / you know, what you want to feel comfortable taking out. Now, if you increase, remember, if you flip that bond equity allocation, you could potentially get away with 40 to 45, depending on how long you plan on keeping your margin loan open. Because see, what happens is, let's just say you have a portfolio where, you know, you're able to invest $4,000 or $5,000 a month or more, who knows, and you plan on keeping the loan, and from January 1st into October, you buying as much of the TBO ETF as possible, and then you're like, all right, from October to next April, I'm gonna keep this margin loan open. Now, at that point, right, it just say it's a car. You own the car at that point, right? You get interest-only payments, right? At that point, every single thing you add into the portfolio, it does two things. It's paying off the loan, and you getting the money that you took out, and you putting it back in, and it replenishes what you can take back out in cash. So by buying back your equity, right, interest only payments, and if you put in 2,000, you get that in borrowing ability back. So you're replenishing your emergency savings to yourself. Scam call. Yeah, so that's basically like the bread and butter of it. Again, if somebody want to reach out in the comments, you know, discuss what I just said. Also, another thing too, someone mentioned this in a comment, not on my video, but in one of the videos that I was watching. VTI, VXUS, and VBIL have the 25% maintenance requirement on Robinhood. That's the platform I use. Different platforms could have different percentages. I'm not sure. But what that means is it requires you to have the lowest amount possible in the value. You know, that's the amount that's the amount that you need to have in there, minus what you took out, minus what it could drop. So again, a lot of these ideas, you know, you can go and search up now. You don't need to pay someone for this. I personally would, I mean, if the videos don't do it, you probably would have to pay me to sit down, because it's not, you can't just learn this. You have to unlearn a lot first, because I know a lot of people with money, but their relationship with money would keep them from being able to do this. So I'm gonna leave it there, and I'm not really sure what I'm gonna name this video. I just wanted to get on here and throw out that creative idea, because a lot of people think you gotta sell and buy and sell. I don't sell. Once I buy one of these 3 ETFs, I don't sell it. I just, if I'm finna do something that's gonna require me to hold a balance for an extended period of time, right? I'm gonna run some numbers, I'm gonna back test it, and I'm gonna say, okay, I need to put my T-bill ETF portfolio diversity number or percentage here. So it never goes under 30, but depending on what I'm finna do, I can take it to 35, 40, 50, 60. If I'm finna make if I'm finna, the higher the percentage that I'm taking out from my portfolio for an extended period of time, the higher, now because again, I'm looking like in the future, the higher I'm gonna make my T-bill ETF allocation. It's really that simple. And what that does is it reduces your chances of a margin call significantly, right? And you get to track it. You know, and again, before you pull that trigger, you can make sure, before you pull the trigger, you can make sure you have the bond percentage of your portfolio exactly where you need it to be to make the margin call that most people keep talking about virtually impossible. Nothing's impossible, but I mean, if you can, again, this is a stock market. These are all stocks and bonds and ETFs. Nothing is completely zero, but if you can get something to where it's under 10%, I mean, I'm willing to gamble with 90%. If someone told me I had a 9% chance of doing something, I'm willing to gamble with that in life. So, yeah, just stay tuned for the next video. Thank you. Like, comment, and subscribe.